Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students of first year MBBS and first year DPT. Today's lecture is about action potential and different properties of cardiac muscle. At the end of this lecture, you will be able to know about the generation of action potential in the cardiac muscle and will be able to know about different properties of cardiac muscle with special emphasis on the refractory period. At the end of this lecture, you will also be able to bridge this knowledge with pharmacology, with special emphasis on the mechanism of action of antiarrhythmic drugs. The wave of excitation is produced in the pacemaker cells of the heart that are present in the SA node. From the SA node, impulse passes through internodal tracts to the atrioventricular node in about 0.03 seconds. There are three internodal pathways, as you can see. These are anterior, middle, and posterior pathways. The block in the middle pathways, it leads to the production of second degree heart block. When impulse reaches the atrioventricular node, there is a delay of 0.09 seconds, and this delay allows both atria to empty their blood into the ventricles. Then from the AV node, impulse passes through bundle of His in another 0.04 seconds to reach the right and left bundle branches. The right and left bundle branches, these branches depolarize. Endocardium in another 0.03 seconds. From these branches, impulse transmission occurs through Purkinje fibers into the ventricular muscles in another 0.03 seconds. For the left ventricle, impulse takes 0.03 seconds, while for the right ventricle, impulse takes 0.02 seconds to completely depolarize the ventricular muscle and then epicardium. So in this manner, we can say that the cardiac impulse takes 0.22 seconds to completely depolarize the heart. When ventricular muscle is excited by the cardiac impulse, action potential is produced in the following manner. At rest, like all other cells of the body, the interior of the cell contains less amount of sodium as compared to outside, where sodium is present in more quantity. So naturally, there is a gradient, concentration gradient for the movement of sodium ions to the inside. And when electrical stimulus excites the ventricular muscle, this concentration gradient, along with the electrical driving force, causes movement of sodium ions inside the myocytes, and due to that, the membrane potential it approaches less negative value. When membrane potential becomes less negative, the fast sodium channels opens and rapid influx of sodium occurs. This rapid influx of sodium moves the membrane potential from minus 85 to plus 20 millivolts. So a change of 105 millivolts is recorded, and this remains for a period of 1 to 2 milliseconds. After this, the wave of depolarization stops at plus 20 millivolts, and due to because the net sodium influx stops, and this stops due to two reasons. Number one, as membrane becomes as ventricular muscle inside becomes positive, this decreases electrical driving force for sodium movement. Number two, the depolarization itself inactivates sodium channels. Due to both these factors, sodium current decreases while potassium current develops. And this marks the end of the phase zero. And with the end of phase zero, the phase one, it becomes established. Or you can say the phase one of ventricular muscle action potential starts, and it starts because of opening of potassium transiently open channels, and due to that the potassium efflux occurs, and that efflux of potassium moves the membrane potential back towards zero value, means the membrane becomes partially repolarized now, and due to this phase is called as initial repolarization phase. Now, as these are transiently open channels, and when repolarization approaches towards the 0 point, here the calcium L-type channels open, and these calcium L-type channels, they become fully functional, and the phase 2 is produced, that is called plateau phase. Actually, this is called plateau phase, but it is not perfectly flat plateau phase, because it develops due to the balance between potassium movement outside the cell and the calcium movement inside the ventricular muscle cell. Due to this, basically, the membrane remains in the positive direction due to movement of calcium ions inside the ventricular muscle, and these calcium channels basically they start opening when the membrane potential reaches minus 40 to minus 50 millivolts, and they become fully open in the initial part of plateau phase. In the initial part of the plateau phase, as these are slow to open and slow to close, and they become fully functional during the initial part of the plateau phase. So the calcium influx it occurs, and this calcium influx has basically two advantages. Number one, it keeps sodium channels inactivated, due to which the second action potential cannot be produced during the generation of action potential in the ventricular muscle. So it becomes a stimulus for prolonged refractory period. The second significance of this is that due to calcium entry, it further increases calcium inside the myocytes, and this calcium it basically triggers release of calcium from sarcoplasmic reticulum. When the calcium channels they become inactive, the potassium efflux starts, and that marks the phase 3, that is called complete repolarization. And this phase it occurs due to two types of potassium channels. Number one, the voltage gated potassium channels. Number two, the calcium activated potassium channels. And due to opening of these channels, the potassium moves outside, and membrane potential again it approaches resting membrane value. When the membrane potential approaches the resting membrane value, this marks the start of the phase 4 of the ventricular muscle action potential. Basically, the phase 4 is the interval between the action potentials, and it is basically due to stable potassium current, means due to stable potassium current at rest, and it is basically due to inward potassium rectifying channels. On the basis of this generation of action potential in the ventricular muscle and regarding the structure of the cardiac muscle, now it is easy for us to define different properties of the cardiac muscle. The first property of the cardiac muscle is excitability. Excitability means when cardiac impulse is produced in the cardiac muscle, the heart muscles they become excitable like nervous tissue. This excitability is due to three factors, or the excitability in the heart can be produced with the help of three factors, or the three types of stimuli can induce this excitability in the cardiac muscle. And these includes electrical stimulus, mechanical, and chemical. And this property is especially important when a patient suffers from heart blocks and artificial pacemaker is installed. The second property of heart muscle is automaticity. Automaticity means the in the cardiac muscle, the action potential generation is independent of the nervous system, because the action potential generation in the heart is automatic. Automatic means it is myogenic in nature. The proof of this is that the heart starts beating in the third week of fertilization, when the nervous tissue are not developed, and the nervous tissue they develops or they first appear during the seventh week of intrauterine life. So the automaticity means the heart has the intrinsic ability to initiate its own beats, and these beats occurs in a rhythmic manner. That defines the next property, that is rhythmicity. That rhythmicity can be defined as the regularity of the pacemaking activity in the heart, and that occurs at regular intervals. The next property is conductivity. It is the intrinsic ability of the heart to propagate cardiac impulse. Now, this propagation of cardiac impulse, speed, transmission, or velocity is different in different cells of the myocytes. It is slowest in AV node, where it is 0.3 to 1 meter per second, and it is fastest in the Purkinje fibers, where it is 1 to 5 meter per second. Next property is contractility. When the heart muscle becomes excitable, it has the property to undergo contraction upon stimulation. The second last property is all or none law. It means either the heart contracts with full force or does not contract, and it depends upon the adequate stimulus. If adequate stimulus is applied, the heart will contract. If adequate stimulus is not uh, adequate stimulus does not travel to the ventricular muscle, the heart muscle will not contract. The last property of cardiac muscle is a refractory period that we will study in the next slide, because it is very, very important property regarding the heart function. The refractory period is the period during which a second stimulus cannot re-excite already excited muscle fiber. Already excited muscle fiber. It is of two types: absolute refractory period and relative refractory period. The absolute refractory period, it starts from phase 0 to the middle of phase 0 to the middle of phase 3. The reason of appearance of this period is that the sodium channels remains inactivated during this period. And they again open in the middle of phase 3. And here is the point: when they again starts, the sodium channels, they start opening. The significance of absolute refractory period is that due to inactivation of voltage gated fast sodium channels, basically a large refractory period is produced, and this large refractory period, it permits one way conduction in heart cells. If this fails, if the generation of long refractory period, it fails, it leads to the development of arrhythmias. It leads to the development of arrhythmias. How the arrhythmias develop when the large refractory period is not produced? The basic physiology behind that is that when large refractory period fails to produce, the action potential, basically it reverses its direction, and when it reverses its direction, it moves to previously depolarized area. And when it moves to previously depolarized area, basically it leads to generation of a re-entry phenomena, and this re-entry phenomena is the basis of different types of arrhythmias in the heart muscles. The second category of refractory period is relative refractory period. The relative refractory period, it starts from the middle of phase 3 up to the end of phase 4. And from the middle of a relative refractory period, some sodium channels, they become open while others remains still unopened. And the relative refractory period is basically, it is the period during which second stimulus stronger than the first one can re-excite the already excited muscle fiber. And when a stronger impulse it comes than the usual that is needed, it always also leads to the generation of failure of a rhythm in the cardiac muscles. After studying the ventricular muscle action potential and different properties of cardiac muscle fibers, now it is easier for us to bridge this knowledge with the antiarrhythmic drugs that are used to treat different types of atrial and ventricular arrhythmias. The antiarrhythmic drugs, they are basically are of four types: class 1, class 2, class 3, and class 4 antiarrhythmic drugs. The class 1 antiarrhythmic drugs, they blocks basically sodium voltage gated channels. Then comes the class 2 drugs that includes beta blockers, beta receptor channel blockers, plus muscarinic receptor channel blockers. These basically affects the phase 4 of ventricular muscle action potential. Then comes the class 3 drugs, and these blocks potassium channels and thus decreases efflux of potassium and thus prolongs a refractory period and are used in the treatment of cardiac arrhythmias. The fourth class of drugs, these drugs are called calcium channel blockers. And these drugs blocks calcium L-type channels and helps in the correction of different type of arrhythmias. Concept check and self-study questions for you. How increase and decrease in sodium, potassium, and calcium concentration affects the ventricular muscle action potential, and especially the study question for you, my dear students, is how potassium decrease and increase in potassium it affects refractory period and ventricular muscle pumping ability. The second question for you is that how catecholamines increases pumping effectiveness of cardiac muscles, and you are supposed to explain this with relevance to molecular mechanism. Thank you very much, dear students, and stay safe. In the next lecture, we will start cardiac cycle and we will continue to study cardiac cycles in the next lectures. Thank you very much.